Professor Zix 427 adjusted her crystalline sensory arrays as she studied the admission documents floating in the holographic display before her. The soft blue glow of the faculty lounge's ambient lighting reflected off her iridescent exoskeleton as she tried to process the unprecedented situation. 3 humans, she announced to her colleague. Dr. Venate, whose gelatinous form rippled with concern. The Admissions Council has accepted 3 humans into our advanced theoretical mathematics program. Impossible, Venate pulsed, his translucent body flashing patterns of disbelief. Deathworlders lack the neural capacity for pure mathematical contemplation. Their minds are too focused on survival and combat. Zix 427 scrolled through the admission files, her compound eyes taking in every detail. Their test scores are remarkable, especially in the applied mathematics sections, though their approaches seem rather unorthodox. The faculty lounge door whispered open, admitting Professor Uller-Phi, the department head. Her insectoid form moved with the precise grace of someone who had spent centuries contemplating geometric perfection. I assume you're discussing our new situation. Uller-Phi, surely you can't approve of this, Venate bubbled anxiously. Humans in our hallowed halls. Their planet has gravity that would crush most sentient species. They evolved while dodging predators and natural disasters. How can they possibly appreciate the subtle elegance of higher mathematics? That's precisely why I supported their admission, Uller-Phi clicked, settling into a hover chair. Consider the implications. A species that developed mathematics while running from apex predators, who solved equations while surviving earthquakes and hurricanes. Their perspectives might be illuminating. Before anyone could respond, a soft chime announced the arrival of the very subjects of their discussion. The faculty lounge door opened to reveal 3 humans, each wearing the standard gravity compensators required for non-death world species to survive in their presence. Sarah Chen, the oldest of the 3, carried what appeared to be a primitive paper notebook. Marcus Williams, barely into his 3rd decade, clutched a container of what their files identified as coffee. Diana Rodriguez, the youngest, was already scanning the room's mathematical formulae, decorating the walls with an intensity that made Zix 427's exoskeleton tingle. Professors, Sarah spoke first, her voice carefully modulated to avoid startling the more sensitive alien species. We wanted to introduce ourselves before classes begin tomorrow. We understand we're something of an experiment. Indeed, Uller-Phi rose, her wings shimming with diplomatic iridescence. We are curious about your species' approach to pure mathematics. Your admission essays were most unusual. Marcus took a sip of his coffee, and Zix 427 noticed how the other faculty members tracked the movement with a mixture of fascination and horror. Their files had warned about the human's habit of voluntarily consuming molecular excitation compounds. We believe mathematics is a universal language, Diana said, her eyes still tracing the quantum equations on the wall. But perhaps we speak it with a different accent. An interesting metaphor, Venate pulsed skeptically. Though I noticed your entrance exam solutions seemed rather aggressive in their approach to problem solving. Aggressive? Marcus raised an eyebrow. We simply believe every equation is a tool. And like any tool, it can be used to build or to overcome obstacles. Zix 427 watched as Sarah opened her notebook, revealing pages of densely packed equations. For instance, Professor, your fascinating work on 11-dimensional probability matrices. We've been studying how it could revolutionize emergency response protocols in unstable gravitational conditions. The faculty lounge fell silent. Uller-Phi's antennae twitched with interest. Emergency response protocols. But that was meant to be a purely theoretical exploration of abstract mathematical principles. With respect, Professor, Diana finally turned from the wall equations. Where we come from, pure theory has a way of becoming practical survival knowledge very quickly. When your planet actively tries to kill you, you learn to weaponize everything, even mathematics. Zix 427 felt her secondary heart flutter. These humans hadn't even attended their first class, and they were already transforming theoretical mathematics into survival tools. What would happen when they actually began their studies? Tomorrow morning, Ulrfei clicked thoughtfully. We begin with basic quantum wavefront calculations. I look forward to seeing your perspective on the material. As the humans thanked them and left the faculty lounge, Venate rippled anxiously. Did you see how they looked at the equations, like they were analyzing fortress defenses? No, Zix 427 corrected, her crystalline sensors still tracking the humans' departure. Like they were seeing possibilities we never imagined. The question is, are we ready for what they might teach us? Ulrfei's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Ready or not, colleagues, tomorrow we begin a grand experiment. We wanted to understand how mathematics evolved on a death world. I suspect we're about to find out in ways we never expected. The faculty lounge fell silent again, filled only with the soft hum of quantum computers and the lingering scent of human coffee. Tomorrow, Zix 427 realized everything they thought they knew about pure mathematics would change. She wasn't sure if she should be thrilled or terrified. Professor Zix 427's lecture hall hummed with anticipation on the second day of term. The three humans had arrived early, surrounded by curious alien students who maintained a careful distance, partly out of respect for the higher gravity requirements of their species, but mostly due to Marcus's ever-present cup of coffee, which several empathic species claimed gave off waves of barely contained chaos. Today, Zix 427 announced, her crystalline sensors adjusting to the room's energy, we will explore 11-dimensional quantum probability matrices and their application in predicting subatomic particle behavior. The holographic display erupted with cascading equations, filling the air with shimmering mathematical poetry. The Arxian students' tentacles swayed in appreciation, while the crystalline Mendorans chimed their approval. Sarah's hand shot up. Professor, these matrices, they're essentially modeling multiple potential outcomes simultaneously across various probability streams, correct? Precisely, Zix 427 clicked approvingly. The pure mathematical beauty lies in how we can. It's just like modeling squad tactics, Diana interrupted, her eyes bright with revelation. Each dimension represents a different variable: terrain, weather, enemy positions, supply lines. The lecture hall fell silent. Even the perpetually vibrating Arxians froze. That's not. Zix 427's sensory arrays flickered in confusion. This is theoretical quantum mathematics, not military strategy. Marcus leaned forward, coffee forgotten for once. But think about it, Professor. Your equations are already perfect for battlefield modeling. Look at the seventh dimension variable. It's practically begging to be used for calculating optimal resource distribution under hostile conditions. The Mendorans chimed in distress, their crystalline forms resonating with alarm. But several Arxian students had moved closer, their tentacles weaving patterns of intense interest. Fascinating, one Arxian student pulsed. The human perspective introduces practical applications while maintaining mathematical elegance. Sarah stood up, approaching the holographic display. With your permission, Professor. Her fingers danced through the equations, rearranging variables. If we adjust the quantum uncertainty principles here, and here, the shimmering mathematical cascade transformed. What had been a pure theoretical construct evolved into something new, something dangerous yet beautiful. Behold, Sarah announced, a predictive combat system that accounts for 11 dimensions of battlefield variables while maintaining quantum uncertainty principles. It could revolutionize planetary defense strategies or predict the safest evacuation routes during natural disasters. Diana added quickly, noting the growing alarm among some faculty observers. Or optimize resource distribution during crisis. Marcus contributed, finally remembering his coffee. Professor Zix 427 found herself torn between mathematical appreciation and existential dread. The equations were elegant, precise, and absolutely terrifying in their implications. This is unprecedented. We've been studying these matrices for centuries as purely theoretical constructs. That's the thing about growing up on Earth, Sarah explained, her voice gentle. When your entire planet is actively trying to kill you, you learn to see the practical applications in everything. Even the most abstract mathematics becomes a potential tool for survival. A new voice cut through the tension, most illuminating. Professor Ullerfi had entered silently, her wings shimmering with complex emotions. It seems our human students have demonstrated exactly why the Council approved their admission. But this is meant to be a theoretical mathematics course, Zix 427 protested weakly, even as her crystalline sensors analyzed the modified equations with growing fascination. Theory and practice are two sides of the same coin, Marcus offered, finally setting aside his dreaded coffee. Where we come from, pure mathematics often becomes applied mathematics very quickly, usually around the time something tries to eat you. The Arxian students had begun copying the modified equations, their tentacles moving with excitement. The Mendorans, despite their initial alarm, were resonating at frequencies that suggested deep mathematical appreciation. Perhaps, Ullerfi clicked thoughtfully, we have been too rigid in our distinction between pure and applied mathematics. Our human students seem to be teaching us that survival itself is a form of mathematical expression. Speaking of survival, Diana interjected, has anyone else noticed that these same equations could revolutionize the cafeteria queuing system? The lunch rush here is almost as chaotic as an Earth hurricane. The tension in the room broke as several species made their equivalent of laughing sounds. Even Zix 427 found her sensory arrays vibrating with reluctant amusement. Very well, she conceded. For tomorrow's class, please analyze these modified matrices and prepare to discuss their potential applications, both peaceful and otherwise. She focused all her compound eyes on the humans. But please, no more converting my theoretical constructs into weapon systems without warning. Of course, Professor, Sarah agreed with suspicious politeness. Though, technically speaking, we could use these equations to create a revolutionary new approach to dance choreography. Out. Zix 427 clicked, her crystalline form flickering with what might have been laughter. All of you. I need to rewrite tomorrow's lecture to somehow account for the fact that my human students have just militarized particle physics. As the students filed out, Professor Ullerfi lingered. You realize the Galactic Defense Council will want to see these modifications. Of course they will, Zix 427 sighed. Give me a moment to process the fact that 3 human students just turned my life's work into a battle algorithm. A beautifully elegant battle algorithm. But still, look on the bright side. Ullerfi's mandibles clicked in amusement. At least they haven't discovered your research on temporal mathematics yet. The two professors shared a moment of horrified silence as they contemplated what humans might do with equations involving time itself. Perhaps, Zix 427 suggested carefully, we should redirect tomorrow's lecture to something safer, like basic geometry. They'd probably turn circles into siege weapons, Ullerfi pointed out. You're right. Zix 427's sensory arrays drooped. There is no safe mathematics anymore. The humans have seen to that. Would you like me to continue with part 3? We're building toward the crisis that will prove the value of this militarized mathematics, while maintaining the humorous undertone and unique character dynamics. Crisis at the Academy. The Academy's warning sirens pierced the peaceful afternoon, their multi-tonal wail designed to be alarming to all known species. Professor Zix 427's sensory arrays flickered in distress as emergency containment fields shimmered into existence around the quantum computing core. Status report. Professor Ullerfi demanded, her wings vibrating with concern as faculty gathered in the emergency control center. A Mendoran technician chimed urgently. The quantum core is experiencing cascading probability failures. Someone, or something, has introduced a virus that's corrupting our baseline mathematical constants. Impossible. Vene pulsed. Our security is based on pure mathematical principles that assume rational actor behavior, Sarah interrupted, bursting into the control center with Marcus and Diana. But what if the virus isn't playing by conventional mathematical rules? The assembled faculty turned to stare at the humans. Diana was already pulling up holographic displays of the core's status, while Marcus clutched not one but 3 cups of coffee. Clearly, the situation was dire. Look at these patterns, Diana pointed. The virus isn't just corrupting data, it's using our own security algorithms against us. It's turning our mathematical defenses into weapons. Just like we did with the probability matrices, Sarah muttered. Professor Zix 427, we need access to the core's primary quantum controls. Absolutely not. Ven 8 rippled in alarm. These are delicate systems that require centuries of mathematical training to fail spectacularly against an attack no one predicted. Marcus interrupted, somehow managing to gesticulate with 3 coffee cups. But we recognize these patterns. This is exactly how we'd approach breaking a mathematical defense system. Professor Ulerfi's antennae twitched. You've done this before. Theoretically, Sarah assured her quickly. Mostly. Look, we need to fight chaos with chaos. Traditional mathematical approaches assume logical progression, but this virus is using quantum uncertainty as a weapon. We need to out-chaos it. Out-chaos it. Zix 427's crystalline form resonated with doubt. That's not even a mathematical concept. It is where we come from, Diana said grimly, her fingers flying over the holographic controls. Sarah, remember that thing we did with the cafeteria optimization algorithm? The one that accidentally created a temporary food-based black hole. Perfect. The faculty watched in horror and fascination as the humans turned their carefully constructed mathematical systems into something that seemed to violate several universal constants. Marcus's coffee cups were distributed to key positions around the control room in what he claimed was a critical chaos-dampening formation. You can't just, Ven 8 began. Already did, Diana interrupted. Marcus, initiate the probability cascade. The quantum core's displays erupted in a dance of impossible mathematics. Equations fought equations. Probability matrices twisted in ways that made several faculty members' sensory organs ache. And then, silence. Virus contained, Sarah announced calmly. We trapped it in a recursive probability loop of its own logical fallacies. It should be entertaining itself for a few million years trying to prove that 1 equals 2. The faculty stared at their monitoring systems in disbelief. The quantum core was not only safe but running more efficiently than before. How? Professor Zix 427 managed. We basically created a mathematical version of a bar fight, Marcus explained, retrieving his coffee cups. Sometimes the best way to deal with chaos is to embrace it, but do it more strategically than your opponent. This, Ulerfi clicked slowly, changes everything. Part 4. The Mathematical Arms Race. News of the human students' unorthodox defense of the Academy spread quickly through the Galactic academic community. Within weeks, the campus was flooded with observers from other institutions, all eager to understand how 3 Deathworlders had revolutionized quantum security through what one observer termed aggressive mathematical warfare. I'm not comfortable with how everyone's focusing on the combat applications, Sarah confessed during an emergency faculty meeting. The room was crowded with representatives from various galactic institutions, their different anatomies creating a fascinating challenge for the seating arrangements. Then perhaps, suggested a newly arrived Arxian mathematician, you shouldn't have turned our theoretical quantum matrices into battlefield calculators. That's not fair, Diana protested. We also use them to optimize the cafeteria, design a better waste recycling system, and create that rather nice garden in the quad. The garden that's arranged in a mathematically perfect defensive formation. Professor Zix 427 asked dryly. The flowers provide excellent cover, Marcus muttered into his coffee. The meeting was interrupted by the arrival of Professor Ulerfi, her wings shimmering with unusual patterns. The Galactic Academic Council has reached a decision. They're implementing mandatory cross-species mathematics education programs. Every major institution will now require multiple perspectives on mathematical principles. The room erupted in a cacophony of various species' expressions of surprise. But our traditional methods, then 8 began, nearly failed us when faced with an unconventional attack. Sci-Fi clicked firmly. The humans have shown us that mathematics isn't just about finding universal truths. It's about understanding how different perspectives can reveal new truths we never imagined. So what now? Sarah asked. We just watch as everyone turns our survival-based mathematics into weapons. No, Professor Zix427 said suddenly, her crystalline form bright with inspiration. We show them how to turn weapons into tools of creation. Evolution of understanding. 1 year later, Professor Zix427 stood before the Galactic Academic Assembly, her sensory arrays taking in the vast audience of diverse species. Behind her, a holographic display showed the results of the Academy's revolutionary new approach to mathematical education. What began as a shocking transformation of theoretical mathematics into practical survival tools has evolved into something far more profound, she began. Our human students taught us that mathematics born of survival doesn't have to be about conflict. It's about adaptation, innovation, and seeing possibilities where others see only problems. The display shifted to show various applications across the galaxy. The humans' battle algorithms had been adapted to predict and prevent natural disasters. Their defensive matrices were revolutionizing environmental restoration projects. Even their infamous chaos mathematics had led to breakthroughs in medical research. Sarah, now a guest lecturer at the Academy, stepped forward. We came from a world that forced us to see mathematics as a survival tool. But survival isn't just about fighting. It's about building, growing, and learning to thrive even in hostile conditions. The true breakthrough, Marcus added, somehow having acquired a coffee dispensing system that worked in zero gravity, wasn't in militarizing mathematics. It was in realizing that every mathematical principle can be seen from multiple perspectives, each offering new possibilities. Diana, recently appointed as the Academy's first human professor, pulled up a final display. This is our latest project, a revolutionary approach to space exploration using modified versions of our original combat equations. Because sometimes the best way to survive isn't to fight the universe, it's to understand it more deeply. Professor Ullerfi's wings shimmered with pride as she addressed the assembly. A year ago, we feared that accepting human students would militarize our pure mathematics. Instead, they taught us that true mathematical understanding comes not from isolating ourselves in theoretical purity, but from embracing different perspectives, even those born of struggle and survival. Though, Professor Zix427 added, her crystalline form resonating with what had become her version of humor, we still haven't fully recovered from their optimization of the cafeteria system. Lunch remains an interestingly tactical experience. The assembly chamber filled with the various sounds of multiple species' laughter. In the back of the room, a group of new students, humans and aliens together, were already scribbling equations, their different anatomies and perspectives combining to see mathematics in ways no single species could have imagined alone. Perhaps, Professor Zix427 concluded, the greatest lesson wasn't about mathematics at all. It was about understanding that every perspective, even those born from conditions we fear, has something valuable to teach us, even if it occasionally involves using coffee cups as probability anchors. Marcus raised his cup in salute, and across the galaxy, mathematics would never be the same again.